Welcome on BDcoded. I'm Jaba, your host for the next hour or plus. We will see. I'm producing the show myself tonight. So if it's any problem, then it's my fault. Bob is on a secret place. Tonight we're going to talk about magic, the meaning of words, spells, symbols, and whatever the inspiration go. And we have our guest, Kevin Flanagan. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Kevin Flanagan, yeah.
How are you?
I'm good, Java. Very happy to be here.
Very happy to be that you are here also, and looking very much for that show. It's really like I told you just before, it is amazing how much I just discovered after I saw your presentation. And if people want to see what Kevin has done, and it's also from Saor, how you say that?
Yeah.
Saor?
Yeah, Saor, that's good. Yeah, it's as good as anybody else says, yeah.
Land of the Free. We're going to talk about that too. But if anybody want to check out the two presentations I saw, and we just watched it also this afternoon to get into also again. It's on the website. Just click on the show of tonight, and there is the two links of the videos. If you click on Kevin's picture, there you have his page with his with all the links, and also of the Saor. And your presentation was magic, spells, and state. That was the first one, correct?
That's right. Well, magic, you.
Sorry? I think we just... Kevin said that you have a little... bad connection, but he will just be back in a little. So I will just continue with magic. What is really magic? People just think, like Kevin says, in the Hollywood movies and the stories we maybe get when we was child, or how much is magic? How much is black magic? How much is white magic? How everything is present and in our time. Kevin, you're back?
I'm back, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Yeah, I've been having gremlins and Skype all day. It's been quite annoying. So hopefully it just hold out for the next hour or so.
Yeah, no problem. It's just how it is. And I think in general the internet is very bad. Get very bad in the last half year, even worse than before. Overloaded, too much spice on any connection. I would not wonder. No problem, Kevin. We cannot hear you for the moment, but I will just go on a little bit. Maybe you want to restart the modem? Kevin? No problem. Now I can hear you again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
You want to restart your modem?
I'm sorry.
No problem.
What you can do if it happens again, if you call me back, I'll be able to answer it on my phone, and it shouldn't be a problem then.
Okay, no problem. Then I just hang up and I call you back.
Yeah, sure.
We just talk also about what's happening. What is life about? That is a question, or like the question of Danny Shine. What is really going on? And all this is. Kevin, you're back?
I'm back.
Okay, that's good too.
Okay, that's the sound good, yeah.
The sound is different, but it's good too. We lost the bass from the mobile, but that is no problem. We can hear you very good. What I just say, what is life all about? I also just ask my wife and VJ, who is also around, what is life? Well, we also talk about life is very interesting, and finally, maybe it's just a dream. And how come that we are living like a reality? We think we are living in a reality. So how what do you think, Kevin, is how much we are in the matrix itself? Because finally, all our senses are just impulsion in our brain. Therefore, we get image. So what do you think? How much we are already in the matrix, or what kind of matrix?
Well, I think it's clear that we're very deep in whatever this is, this paradigm that we're all sharing. And I often think of Descartes, who said, "I think, therefore I am." And the process that he went through to come to that conclusion was looking at everything that he had come to believe based on assumption. So he basically started to remove all assumptions in his mind about beliefs, about the material world. And when you do these sort of meditations, you come to this sort of realization that everything that you perceive, although you perceive it on the outside world, is being perceived by the mind internally. So for Descartes, it was a question of removing away all these illusions and all these falsehoods until you were left with just pure naked thought. I think, therefore I am. So I guess if you can trick people from this truth of their true nature, living in the moment, and if you can convince them that their characters in a different play, if you can conform the world or change the world into your own image or into the image that you want it to be, then you can control the masses and you can dictate what reality is. And whenever we you talk about what is life or what is the meaning of life, and you try and make sense of where we are today, and we look to the past, we read history books, and we read books about different subjects to try and learn information. So everything that in our lives that we use to get a sense of this reality, this shared social reality between human beings, comes ultimately from words in some shape or form.
How much scared you get to use words? How much did you change some words that you don't use anymore for yourself? Did you change the way you are talking?
I think I just became a lot more conscious of, I guess, that, when we say words, that they have much more significance than just saying a couple of sounds. Or, you think of curse words. I curse a lot. Irish people curse a lot. But it's something that I've become a lot more conscious of now. And if you're thinking that saying these words, perhaps they have some sort of energetic effect on the people around you. Recently I was watching a documentary, and a scientist who he witnessed his, he was there with his wife when she was in labor, and he realized that when the contraction started, she would begin cursing very heavily. So we had this idea that, well, maybe let's see if there's an effect to this. Would it be any difference if she said any different word? Or so we started to do experiments where he would ask people to put their hand into a tub of ice and to hold it there for as long as possible. And then afterwards, he'd repeat the experiment again, but this time they were allowed to say whatever curse words could come into their head. And what seemed to happen is that by actually saying these curse words, people could hold their hands in the water for longer. That actually seemed to have some way of reducing the pain, the psychological effect of the pain. So it's like, you hit your thumb with the hammer, you're going to let out a curse. It's just interesting how these words, which we call curse words, become such a part of our everyday vocabulary, normal, and we never really stop to think why we call them curse words. Or even, I don't know if you have this in Switzerland, but over here we'd say, please and thank you are the magic words.
Yeah.
You know, and we refer to them as these as the magic words, because when we say please, or when, you know, a child comes up and asks for a cookie and you say no and they say please, that's a magic word. They're pleading with you.
Pleading.
You know, it's trying to persuade you.
Yeah.
You know?
So you don't say please anymore?
Oh, I would say please, of course, but it's just, I think it's just having an awareness of what these words are. So, you know, I still curse. I try not to. I guess when it comes to describing myself, I'm very careful about what words to use, because anything that you choose, any words you use to define yourself, well, that's just it. You're defining yourself. You're actually boxing yourself in a little bit. So I wouldn't really be against using any words, I suppose, as long as if you're using them in the proper context, and if you understand the meaning of the word, that's crucially important.
And so I have to say, one of the first word that my show is about Babylon Decoded, because I come out of the reggae. Babylon was like the system, was the idea of the power structure and so on. And in reggae, we didn't use the word understanding, but we used the word overstanding.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? I changed.
I know
even the guys on the radios, they don't use understanding anymore.
Yeah, I'm aware.
You know, it's like,
you know,
and it's the same. It's the same with like his story. You know why it is his story, and why it's not our story. You know, and it's all that different spells. And when I thought on the show tonight, I was almost like, oh shit, I really have to take care now what I'm going to say. And therefore, I want to come back to language. You know, because we have old language and we have new language. English is a very young language in this way. And we have the only language that didn't change is Latin.
Okay, yeah.
And
well, you've also got like the earlier languages of Sanskrit and Hebrew and things like that. But what I think interesting between the old and the new ones, the old ones incorporate the idea of a sound vibration as well, where the actual pronunciation of the word itself, the resonance of the frequency, has a meaning, whereas in English we sort of lost that and we just have the word having a meaning by itself, just a collection of letters. But
don't you think that is like the part of the manipulation to change already? Like English is definitely a reverse language in this way, and it's almost black magic to speak English. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's funny you should say that, because in most languages in the world, well, English is sort of a backwards language, okay, in the sense that most languages would say place names in reverse. So in England you would have, or in English you would have for an address like 10 Yellow Road, but in Irish it would be 10 Boher Bree, which is Road Yellow, and you find that more common in other European languages. So you find English is an inversion, and you're right to say that it is a very young language, and it was pretty much, you know, the King James Bible and the writing of the Shakespearean plays which solidified English into what it is as we know it today. And which sort of highlights the point that whenever we're looking at words, especially English words, we must go back and look at the etymology and the root of that word and find out how it became in common usage today.
I saved this website in my. Is this one I use since your presentation very often? Yeah.
That's Etym Online, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But like I love doing that. It's such an interesting exercise. You know, you pick a word. I have a policy with myself that if somebody asks me a word, if I come across a word that I don't know the meaning of, I look it up at that right then and there, because if I don't look it up, I'll never look it up again. So I'll go in and look at the etymology, and then in the etymology, the definition, it might have another word that would pique my interest, and I'll go, okay, we'll have a look at that. And you just start going into this rabbit hole, finding out all these different meanings of words and finding connections between words that weren't apparent.
Yes,
on the surface.
the tricky thing in this one, because I make a lot of examples to people because of words and the meaning and where they're coming from, and they say no. I looked up on internet, Wikipedia, what I call a Jesuitpedia. Of course you find it sometimes, the like the Latin or the real meaning of the word, but they always put some other examples on it, so it gives already a kind of false information about the real meaning of the word. And on the etymology, I see that I recognized a lot of things that explain in a way also, because I talk French with my kids. So I had to learn a little bit to talk the French correctly, because the French, what I see in the French is they are the most aggressive in the whole world when it comes to accent, orthograph, spelling, and all that shit.
Okay. Well, you've heard of the group of French linguists who meet, I think it's every year, and I believe they call themselves the Immortals. And these people meet once a year in private. It's not like a Bilderberg private thing. They're just academia of France. And they decide which words are going to be allowed into the French vernacular for the following year and like that. But I just think it's interesting that they love the language so much, they have this group, and they refer to themselves as the Immortals.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's like even here in Switzerland we have 4 languages, but even the one who are in the French part where I'm living, they are very picky when it comes to this. And when it comes to language, it is I call that also is the part of the Babylonian separation of the humans, like. I don't remember the Latin word of that, but to divide to rule. You know?
Yeah.
That is a part of the language itself already, to separate the people, that the information cannot really get further, to keep the people.
Absolutely.
To keep the people like in restrained areas where they only get the information that is given to this little area. The world is backwards, like you say in your presentation too, reversed psychology, I would say, or when we talk about this kind of things, is black magic. And I think you talk very well about the black magic too.
Well, I think it's important, before we go into that sort of stuff, to maybe just dwell on what magic is for a moment or two, because I've spoken to a few people about this over here who might not have seen the presentation, maybe friends, and I say, oh, I've done this presentation, it's about magic and this, that. And they sort of resist it straight away, and they go, oh, you're going to lose people, magic, what do you mean magic? Like, so I think it's important to define this term in the considering the analysis of words and things like that. So some people might think of magic as being Harry Potter and the Lord of the Rings, or you might have an idea in your head of maybe like magicians and things like that.
Yeah, stories.
So stories and things. So the way I define it, well, when I was in my teens, okay, I started to look into came into contact with information about Wicca and things like this when I was young. Practiced, but it was more just out of academic interest. So from reading a lot of these books, it became very clear to me that magic is very simply the direction of energies. And it's the direction of energies to obtain a certain result in its simplest form. So when you see, when people perform and they do the circle and they call the quarters and a bit of incense and all this sort of, all this ceremony, what they're doing is they're raising what the idea of magic out of, demystify it and make it a lot more basic, and show that the sort of concepts that we might be used to, people have heard of voodoo dolls, and they've seen zombie films and things like this, and we all have a little idea of what magic is like, these ceremonies, from maybe documentaries that we've seen or films. But the idea is to try and demystify that and make it very simply to people, and show that, yes, these principles of magic, of occult practices, can be directly seen in how we organize the state and how we manage and govern ourselves. So, one of the big questions that I've asked for a long time, and which led me to, eventually set up Trainers here and eventually go back to college to study law, was the idea of what makes the law binding on you. What is it about this system of law, or whatever it is, these rules, that make them binding upon you? It's consent also. Yeah, it's consent to a degree, but it's also coercion. There's an element of fear there.
Yeah,
there's an element of
but then we could
sense of obligation.
But then we come to a point where they only have power over you if you give them power, and that is the general.
Exactly.
That the problem is that everybody is doing that because of fear, traumas produced by psychopaths. We are coming exactly to the same, that some people just try to have power over you, but they only have power when you and they need your consent. I always come back to that universal law, that the consent is very important. That is, the free choice is there.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, you're dead right. Like, and for anybody who cares to look, all of the information is out there, to find out what's going on, and so, in a sense, like, they give us full disclosure of what's going on. So, and we consent by our acquiescence, by simply not responding to what they, by not objecting to what they do and what they say. Okay. But the reason for that, it's easy for you and I to say, well, look, it's just in the head. Legislation is just in your mind. But if you try and explain that to the guy on the street, it's not going to translate.
Yeah,
it's not going to make sense. And I used the example in the presentation of the court summons. That's just a piece of paper. The squiggles on it, like, let's face it, it's a piece of paper. It's made out of a tree, and it has black squiggles on the page called letters. And when somebody opens that, there's a physiological effect inside their body. Their heart might sink, their stomach might go up in a knot. They might actually tremble a little bit because they're afraid. And if that fear is the effect of the magic working on them. So,
Kevin, I have to admit, I get the police paper last week. Well, I was not home, but even if I get one, I get freaked out, because the brainwash is so deep that it is like you have the whole chain. Like, if they're gonna fuck you up, you have the thing, even if you know it. And I admit it. I know this shit. I know that it is just they try to give power, but still you have to go there in the police station, and you have to face that kind of system. It is not cool. It is definitely not cool, and that is part of the whole brainwash we have over so much time, that even my parents, they when it comes to police, when it comes to authority, they just you feel the vibration they give, because they also already have that. And that is one thing I want to talk with you, is about how much. It's like with all these symbols, with all this Illuminati stuff, with all this Freemason, with all this Nazi cross and blah, blah, blah. How much they do really exist, and how much they want you believe that they exist.
I don't know. I think that's a very good question.
That is the question I asked to a couple of researchers.
Well,
no? Yeah, go ahead.
I think, I try and look, even though these are very esoteric subjects, I try and look at them pragmatically. And you look at the cause and the effect. So if the effect is that we that they have caused us to believe that they exist, then do you know where I'm going? Like, is there really much of a difference if they've caused that effect? Now, I think that there is, I don't know, when people think of the Illuminati as this like monolithic conspiracy that's like, you know, knitted into every institution in the world, I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. And perhaps I think that these groups are connected more so through their philosophy rather than this internal network of people telling other people what to do. And within that network, there's going to be a hierarchy. Now, it's interesting you bring up the secret societies because, you know, you look at the history of secret societies themselves, which go back to Sumeria and Babylon and Greece and Rome and so on. And all of these secret societies, another word for them is the mystery schools. They practiced very similar beliefs, even though they would have been independent of each other. They practiced magic. They practiced magic.
But then we are coming,
and this is the thing that's.
Then we are coming to the same point, like his story. You know, like how much did they really done in the and we are coming to a point where we can say you can change the whole history in 3 generations. So how much can make you know, like even a stone, if they, now the specialists, they say like this stone is some million years old. You know, they have some parameters, they have to calculate that this stone is this age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even they...
At the end of the day, though, it's always going to be hearsay evidence. This is the thing, like we're really, like this getting to the, I think, nuts and bolts of sovereign thinking is, unless you have experienced something directly with your 5 senses, and you can't even trust your 5 senses at that, but unless you've experienced something directly, then that's all that exists. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Everything else you've read and everything else you've heard is literally just hearsay. And if you want to be a good judge, we're all judges. We all have the, you know, created in the image of God. We have the ability to be judge and rational beings. If you want to be a good judge, when someone presents this evidence before you, you really have to say, well, am I going to allow hearsay evidence into my court, and am I going to accept this into my belief system and change my life to it? I think it's important to absolutely know the enemy, but to dwell on it, what they've done or what they may have done or anything in the past is probably, it's not going to be very beneficial. Instead, what I'd like to do is observe what's happening in the society that I live in today.
Yeah.
At the moment,
it's really
with
going
regards
on.
to
exactly.
law, with regards to
yeah, the things that are really going on the things that are going on right now. That is very important. Many people they go very back and to compare it, and that is also what I'm doing. It's not I can't change the past. I can't change the future. I only can change what I'm doing right now. And to do right now, you only can follow like your heart, what you're gonna do. And I have a video. I will send it also you. It's about hard thinking, I call it, and it's about emotions and feelings. And a lot of people, they can't separate the 2 things. It is emotions come from the mind and can be manipulated, and feelings are coming from the heart and cannot be manipulated. That is my theory, and therefore to really follow these different things. So like everything, what kind of pictures the people give you through words or stories or reading, you have to really be able to make a reset to but many people get lost in that. That is a fact. If the deception is too big, then it can definitely hurt the people, and the awakening will not happen if it's too hard. You know, it's like the chicken in the egg will it have to break the shell itself. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Symbolism. You hear me?
Yes.
Symbolism.
Yes.
If you can talk a little bit what you think about that, and what kind of you said already vibration it have to manipulate people.
Well, there's always, whenever you talk about symbols, very quickly you'll get the debate of, well, is it the intention of what I put into the symbol, or is there something else? Does it have an inherent power and an inherent meaning? And the thing is, symbols were the first way we had to communicate with each other, and letters are they are symbols in themselves, and I like to use that as an explanation to people when you're talking about how important symbols are in the world. And
it's me, maybe. We are back. I think we are back, but we lost everybody. Kevin, are you still there?
I'm back.
Okay, that I
don't know what you heard.
No, that I think was my connection that just dropped out for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, just go ahead.
So where was I?
Symbols.
Symbols, yeah. So usually when I explain, trying to get this, explain this to people, I'll write a few letters down on a page and I'll explain how these symbols in themselves can conjure up images in people's mind. So if you can imagine a blank page and I write the letter C on it, it's just half a circle, not fully finished, and then you write the letter A, which is sort of like a triangle, and then the letter T. Those three symbols can combine together to create and conjure up an image, and they have a certain meaning to us. And it's the same in magic, although they would not necessarily use letters and words in the same way we would. They would combine magical symbols together, which would have a certain intended purpose. And then this sort of technology, because it is technology. Magic, the word magic also shares the root with the word machine. It's a technology, it's an art. So, this technology is then used by the governments. And you see the Great Seal of America. We have the seal of the Irish government, and they have these symbols of national prestige and national power and authority. And it's these symbols themselves that actually you feel have power over you when you get a summons in the door, or the fact that you can't leave your country without having a piece of paper with one of these symbols written on it. So yeah, absolutely, symbols are very powerful things, and they're all around us. And it's very interesting, I think, to just take the time to learn a little bit of the basic symbolism structures, and then you start to see it all around you in the corporate logos, and you can actually interpret these things. You start to read the language of symbolism. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. The forms, did you discover forms in the symbols that are making more effect than others? Or?
What do you mean when you say forms?
Yeah, like because we talked to a guy, Shen Ross. He is about the octagon because I'm from Switzerland and he is living in Switzerland and struggling very much with the state and everything. So what he discovered is like Switzerland. If you put the cross together, if you align everything together, you have octagon. And that octagon is like the power thing, and he found that it's different layers also, like from triangles and the square, and the fifth star also with the female and male, and all these different forms that you also can recognize in symbols very much.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, well, I know the octagon is a very cultic symbol. You see it a lot with the police officers' badges, generally in an octagon shape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the Freemason checkerboard on it as well.
Yeah, and also in every court, like national court, or like the highest court, you have the 8 pillows. Like if you watch in America, you have always these 8 pillows in how you say the pillars. The pillars. Sorry, yeah. And always 8 even in Switzerland, in all countries, when it comes to police judgment and everything, even they have eight windows and all this kind of shit. It's all over the place.
Well, I think it just highlights the fact that the very reality that we share is a magical reality. It's actually written in the stone. Do you know what I mean? It's the very fabric of our reality. Now, getting back to earlier on, we're talking about the definition of magic, and people usually think of the stage magician. Now, when you're watching stage magic and you're fascinated by what you're seeing, you're amazed, you're entertained. You really have this curiosity to know how the trick is done. And I guess this is where a big solution lies in kind of what I'm talking about, is in finding out how the trick is done. So if the magician reveals his secret to you and you know how he's doing it, he's slipping the card up his sleeve or whatever it is, once you have the awareness that a trick is being performed and how it's done, you can never look at that trick in the same way again, because you have this awareness. And this is very much where I think I'm coming from, and why I wanted to put this information out, is because if people can tweak their perspective a little bit to allow this admittedly pretty crazy theory, but just to allow it to sit for a while and look at the state and look at the system and look at the ends for a little while and see how clear all these things start to click together. Now, I must stress, so I'm not saying that I believe magic works in the sense of that it's a supernatural power. I'm talking about cause and effect. That's it. It's very simple, it's very basic, and it's scientific in the sense it can be tested again and again and again. And we can observe that people respond badly or like a sense of obligation to a court summons. That's cause and effect. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about magic. It doesn't necessarily have to be something supernatural, but we can see it happening. And what's interesting is these ideas are actually a lot easier to prove than other ideas in law that are commonly accepted. Like if I was to ask you, do you believe you have rights? And could you prove to me in the court of law that your rights exist? How could you prove those rights exist without pointing to some piece of written down material that some other man has written down at some point in history, a constitution, a bill of rights, etc., etc.? Can you prove that they exist under testable, observable circumstances? No, we can't. It's just something that we agree, because it's good for society that we say we have rights, but they're not. You can't touch them. They're not. It's like the same argument for people saying that God doesn't exist. Same argument can be applied to rights. So where I'm going with this is that I take a very pragmatic approach to what seems to be at first a very out there concept, and when we take that pragmatic approach and look at the system in that way, you see the machine, the mechanism, and it often reminds me of that last scene in the Matrix film, because there's a lot of correlations between the Matrix and what we're talking about tonight.
You mean the
last
big
film, and he has a.
Okay, go ahead.
Not the big fight, when he's standing there and he looks down the corridor and the three agents are there, and he's looking and it's all just the green numbers are trickling down. Yeah. Now he's looking at the magic. He's seeing the system as it is. He can see how all the code works together. And once he has that power, once he can see through the illusion of the Matrix, then he can control it. He can begin to become he can begin to take control of the outcome of events. Yeah. And by doing so, he himself starts to become a magician, and he himself starts to become a creator of the reality that they want to have. And that's how we fight them back.
Definitely. It's exactly the same to say if you know the magic. But it's funny because you know Thomas Sheridan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He are both from Ireland, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you both you give out a solution, like a way how you can use your way of what you discover, and that I think is a very important part, because what I do, I again give some pictures in it, a different picture than what the people have on writing, on talking, on like that way. But I just see like I just want to see. I just want at least to talk, unless I can talk, because I just have the impression that this gets more and more lost, and that it's getting so restrained. Even in some countries, you cannot talk about the system how we talk on our radio. Yeah, so that's why I think I'm doing it. But you definitely give a good solution out of it, and I would definitely. Everybody to see this presentation, because it's really open-minded, and it's really good to see, and how you explain the magic also is very interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And
I'm glad it entertained you.
No, it didn't entertain me. The entertainment comes from making from amusement. And muse is muse in French is occupying the brain. Interesting. It's not to have fun. Amusement and entertainment. Yeah, definitely.
Enter and entertain the mind. Absolutely. Yeah. But in truth, if like, you know, because it has to apply, a theory that works has to apply across the board. And if you feel that it made you think about things in a different way, well, then it was entertainment, because it entered and entertained the mind, and it caused you to think slightly differently. That's exactly what I'm talking about here tonight. That's the effect of magic. It's an act of creation.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, even you inviting me onto this show tonight, you got in touch with me first with words, and that's a spell. You know, and you had an intention. Your intention was to have an interview with me, or to have a chat with me, and you created your spell and you sent it off. And when you said, "Will you come on?" I said, "I will come on." Now that's a very interesting word as well. The phrase, "I will." We say it all the time.
Yeah.
I will come on, because I'm actually asserting that this spell, I might as well be saying, "Let it be my will that I will come on," you know, or by my will I will be there. And then we have this right now. What's happening is a reality that would not have been experienced by anybody, by ourselves or your listeners, if it was not for the fact that you created your spell and tried to put your intention out onto the world. So, you know, you can see how it comes into every aspect of your life, right into your relationships, and you know, and just how you learn, and the type of individual that you can become. You know.
Exactly. Very powerful. It's very powerful, like BJ say.
Oh, great.
Something that what I noticed is also you use the word believe also, right? In believe you have lie. In lie you have I, like the all-seeing eye. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I hear, like, I see people do things like this with words, and I think they're very interesting. Is it saying, though, that everything that you believe in is always a lie? Do you know? And this is just the way I look at it, like, you know. And is there no such thing as objective truth? You know. Anyway, like, you know, there's lots of words like that you can break down into smaller pieces. But as again, being pragmatic about it, I would look at the etymology of the word. And we have to remember as well that sometimes the words in English it might be belief, but when you look at what it is in French, it wouldn't be the same connection. Do you know what I mean?
Understanding. So understanding in German is verstehen, and it means you stand. yeah, verstehen, like everything what is with is V-E-R before the word. It's like almost the reverse. So you stand, but you are like reversed. You stand. In French is I took this word. I think it make really. I just searched like in other language what it gives. Like in French is comprendre, and con is like stupid who take. You know, so it is funny. It's definitely not in all words. It is like that, but in many words, in the three language that I speak, I discovered that it is to makes the same spell if you want. You know, so like all this young language, I think, and like I said to BJ this afternoon, we should just learn Latin because for one word,
I'd love.
Yeah, I think also it's very interesting because you need 10 words to in English to explain one word in Latin.
Yeah. But there's a couple of other interesting words there that you made me think of when you said believe. Because is a very interesting one because you've got because. So you have the example with the parent telling the child to go to bed. It's like, come on now, it's time to go to bed. And they say, why? Because I said so. Now that's really interesting. They're saying it's like because an effect. The cause is that I said so, so that's why you have to go to bed. And then you can have now. The parent must say you have to go to bed now. Now is a fantastic word, because it snaps you into the present when that's said now. And this is interesting as well in the context of court, because they will ask you if you go into court, you're either going to have a solicitor representing you, or you will do it for yourself, and the court will ask you, are you representing yourself? But represents is re-present, and present is here and now. So you can't re-present yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? So when the court asks, are you representing yourself? Probably the best answer would be, I am present here and now. And that's a very metaphysical way of thinking about it. You're saying, I am, like the burning bush to Moses, present. It's talking about space-time continuum, like, you know, here and now. And you might go one step further and go, to deal with this matter. Matter is a very interesting word as well.
And also...
the whole world is made...
Yes, signature is also a very interesting word. You sign your nature, and that is the time when you put your living being into paper, and then you sign the spell or the spell, and then you give you full consent on it. Yeah.
And I'll make a point in the presentation about how the signature itself is like a heartbeat on the heart monitor. Because when you sign a document, it's like you're giving it life. And in the same sort of a metaphor, the same way in the Bible, God breathed life into the clay, which was an inanimate object. He breathed life, which was the word, into the clay, and then the clay had life. And man was created. It's the exact same thing with us when we do it with documents. And when we sign a document, that's our words, that's our breath of life that's going onto that document, and it's charging it up, and it's saying that there's energy behind this, there's a real soul that's behind this document, you know. So this is why you have to be so cautious and careful about what you sign. Now, I studied law for the last 3 years, and one of my contract law lecturer told us, never, ever, ever sign anything that you did not write yourself. You know, I thought that was very interesting.
Never sign something that you never write yourself. So you should almost copy what is written on a paper yourself to sign it.
And put it into language that you understand. And that's basically it. We'll put it the way he explained it was.
I know what you mean.
If I sent you a document, a contract, you are accepting my form. You're accepting the contract. So it's basically my spell. My spell is being cast in the agreement.
And this is actually goes one further in the law. They call it the battle of the forms.
Mm.
And think of that word form. Form is a shape. So in law, they do this thing called the battle of the forms, where it's like a dueling match, where one team, and they send it over to the other team, and they'll take that shape, that form, and they'll change it, and they'll send it back in a different form. And that goes back and forth until the last shot is fired.
Mm.
There's a thing called the last shot doctrine. So whoever fires the last contract, the last form, that's the form that stands for the agreement.
Mm-hmm.
These are all very interesting things that generally, you wouldn't necessarily pick it up just going about your day to day.
Mm.
But this is only in the legal profession, these sort of ideas,
Yeah. Yeah, it's the law. It's definitely the trick is. But we have 4 minutes left. I think we're just gonna stop for today, and you probably will come back. Or we talk also, like we say, maybe we're going to do something on your radio that you're going to launch this Thursday. And can you talk a little bit about, let me say it correct, Tir Nasor? I think Kevin dropped out.
Hello?
Yeah,
Back.
yeah, no problem.
That's
Did you hear what I said?
And I only caught the first half. I heard you saying I only caught the first half of it. You're talking about the importance of the law, I think.
Yeah, the importance of the law and all the magic that is happening, and like you said, the tricks that are being produced. But I want you to talk about Tirnasor, Land of the Free, your website, the radio you're going to launch this Tuesday also? Thursday?
Yeah, that's tomorrow actually, yeah. Well, tomorrow at 9 p.m. GMT. Well, basically, Tirnasor was set up in 2009, and I was about 22 at the time, and even though having already in my teenage years looked into a lot of different spiritual topics, I've been to India and I was very interested in Eastern spirituality and things like that. But when I came back and I started to find out about this freedom movement, sovereignty, free man, and things like that, it was very, very appealing to me. I was very interested in it. And I quickly started to see a connection between understanding about the law and sovereignty and the spiritual concepts that I'd seen in India about breaking through the illusion of Maya and karma and things like this. So basically, I suppose Tirnasor was set up, it was half out of frustration and half out of having a series of epiphanies that this was something that was needed. And it's basically just a community of open-minded people who come together to share ideas and discuss different topics of interest. So we've been going there for a couple of years, and we're launching our radio station tomorrow. And got a good lineup for the first. Yeah, we've got a good lineup of hosts there covering a load of different topics. So we wouldn't just look at the law or magic or anything like that. We look at things like permaculture and technology. I think Anonymous are going to take a slot as well. The Irish Anonymous might take a slot. So it's basically we're after setting up a public platform, if you want to call it that, which is the community radio, and we invite our members then to participate and to contribute in any way that they feel, just to get another way of getting the information out there. So that's really Tirnasor in a nutshell, I suppose.
Nice. The links are on the website darkcity.com. darkcityradio.com, sorry. I think I really wish that you come back one time to talk about more about law. We also have a show with Dave Matthew on Thursdays. He talk about also he helps a lot of people ourselves too, and would be nice to have another talk with you in the future also on our radio. We're gonna nice, and just people can take your links also to check out these ones, and don't get blinded by the magic of the whole surround us, we would say, and nice to discover. And thank you so much to be on the show, and we talk very soon.
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
Bye bye.
Slow down.